And just like that, Ryan Blaney is back in victory lane at the site of his first ever win. And all in all, a Pocono race. I mean, that's the best way to put it. It was probably, after the last couple of years of having some pretty damn fun Pocono races, this one was definitely not one of the worst ever. Trust me, if you thought this was the worst ever, you did not watch 2019 and the 550 days. But still, overall, an interesting race in the big picture, in the grand scheme of things here. We will talk about Corey LaJoie. Trust me, we will talk about Corey LaJoie in detail. We'll talk about Ryan Blaney as well being the winner. We'll talk about a couple others that are up in the ranks. But first, and I see some of you already start doing this, out of 10, rank this race in the chat. I want to see what you guys think, and then we are going to look at the finishing order and the playoff order. I'm seeing 6.4, 8, 5. Those are the first couple. Let them start just flowing on in here. 0, 2, 7. 7 seems to be where you guys are really lining up. At least from what I can tell. I mean, I'll look even on the community tab as well. A lot of them, wow, you guys are just letting them fly. We'll talk about Kyle Busch. Trust me, we will talk about Kyle Busch. But overall, it seems like people thought it was an average to goodish race for the most part. We got the poll on the community tab too to kind of help us see that. But let's talk about the finishing order, and then we'll look at the playoff standings, which have gotten actually kind of interesting, kind of not. It's within the realm of possibility of being interesting. So contrary to what Rick Allen said, because he for some reason couldn't say the word American, this is the Great American Getaway 400, not the Great Getaway 400, at the Pocono Raceway. 160 laps, 3 hours, 13 minutes, 58 seconds, and 8 apiece on lead changes, leaders, and cautions. Triple eights on the board. You got Ryan Blaney getting the victory in this race. A very, again, just solid run all day long. And this was a track that, as I chuck my phone, this was a track that Penske has had some troubles at. You know, they pointed out in the broadcast, but in the next-gen era in particular. I mean, I had Ryan Blaney as my suck pick, and Eric had Joey Logano as his suck pick, and it was justified. I mean, no one would have picked Cindric because that was pretty much a given, but it was justified because this team has not been very good, but Ryan Blaney overcomes that. Logano does too. So Blaney wins by 1.312 seconds over Denny Hamlin. Then Alex Bowman, a solid third place finish to follow up his win in Chicago. William Byron in fourth, solid top 5 for him as well. Kind of getting that mojo back a little bit with the team. Joey Logano with the top 5. I mentioned him earlier. Tyler Reddick 6th. 7th is Brad Keselowski. 8th is Martin Truex Jr. 9th, Elliott, and 10th, Bubba Wallace in a really a must, not must win, but must top 10, must have a good run kind of day for him after what happened today. Chris Buescher comes home 11th. After that, you got Christopher Bell in 12th. 13th, Kyle Larson. Just mistakes all day long, especially, small mistakes all day long, and then a really big one towards the end screwed him out of a really good finish. Same for Chase Elliott in 9th. Elliott probably had the best car out there today. Eric Jones, 14th. 15th is Chase Briscoe. 16th, Suarez. 17th, Hocevar. Cindric in 18th. LaJoie in 19th. 20th, Josh Berry. After that, you got AJ Allmendinger, 21st. Justin Haley, 22nd. Austin Dillon, 23rd. And Michael McDowell, 24th. 2 laps down. Those were the only ones on track. 24 were on track at the finish of this race. 23 on the lead lap. The rest were out as all things said and done. Cody Ware was the only one who might have not been out of those. He was 26th behind Hemrick, who fell out right at the end at 25th. All these guys, by the way, out of the race. Ty Gibbs, 27th. John Hunter Nemechek, 28th. Zane Smith, 29th. Ryan Preece, 30th. Harrison Burton, 31st. Kyle Busch, 32nd. 33rd to Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Todd Gilliland, 34th. J.J. Yaley, 35th. Ross Chastain, 36th. And 37th, last in this race, was Noah Gragson. Looking at the playoffs as we're looking at it right now, the 4 above and the 4 below. Above is Martin Truex Jr. plus 137. In order for him, if there are no new winners to fall out, he'd have to give up 28 points a race. Kind of seems far-fetched. Ty Gibbs now is over a race above the cut line, 67 up. He'd have to give up about 14 a race, so pretty good there. Chris Buescher, plus 44 on the cut line in 15th. And 16th, Ross Chastain, only plus 27 now. So still pretty good for the most part. I do think the 1 can outrun the 23. Bubba Wallace is the one right underneath him. But when you're looking at the cut line here, if Chastain has a bad race or two or hits a bad streak right now, and Bubba Wallace simply 14ths his way through the rest of the regular season, Ross Chastain could be in some serious trouble. And you still got, Indianapolis is probably going to be a bit of a wild card just because they have not raced there in so long. It'll be similar to Pocono, but it's not the same. You got Michigan, that's been a wild race in the past couple of years. Daytona, of course, and the Southern 500. So it's not a gimme in any way for Ross Chastain. Weird stuff can happen. But Bubba Wallace, minus 27. The only one really challenging points-wise when it comes to the playoffs. Chase Briscoe, minus 75. Busch, minus 102. Gilliland, minus 127. It's over, I think, for them when it comes to getting a win. I mean, it would take some wild stuff to really get them into the playoffs as it is now. But the race itself, Ty Gibbs was on the pole. I'll say this, amazing crowd. The last 2 years at Pocono especially have been amazing with the crowd. Actually, most, I would say, of the past years since pandemic restrictions and all that were lifted. Really good showing by those Pennsylvania racing fans. And from what I hear, the infield is a wild place. I'll say this, though. Horrible traffic execution. They basically had a Kentucky Speedway size line outside the track. There were people halfway through the race that just knew after waiting for 5 hours to get into the track, 3 hours, whatever it might be for some of them, they just turned around and left because there was no point for them. So that needs to be fixed up. But on the race track side, on the other side of the fence, you had Ty Gibbs on the pole. He would battle for the first lap with William Byron, but he had the best car really early on. The big kind of thing that happened in stage 1, a shorter stage, was that Noah Gragson crashed out of the race after his announcement this past week, finishing dead last on the day. So yeah, I mean, it just seems like Noah's season is that he's either really good to the point where we're like, wow, he shouldn't be up there, or bad luck. Of course, at this point, you start getting the split strategy immediately in stage 1. Not that anyone's shocked, that is Pocono. But with that, on the restart, Gibbs gets out easy with the lead, overcooks it in the corner. We saw this a couple times today. Truex ends up getting by him, winning stage 1 over Hamlin, Reddick, Byron, Elliott, Bowman, Logano, Keselowski, Bell, and Jones. Again, we're looking at this top 10, and outside of Gibbs, all the Gibbs cars are there, and all of I believe all the Hendrick cars but Larson are there. So just it looked like it was going to be a Gibbs versus Hendrick day, just by what we've seen in the past and what they were showing early on today. You get restarted. Brad Keselowski gets the lead as Logano then overcooks it in 1. Again, it's something we saw throughout the day. And this is something else we saw. And I won't mention it past this point for the most part because outside of the speeding penalty, it's not relevant. But Chase Elliott restarted well into the pack, flew up into the top 5. I really think that if it wasn't for the speeding penalty and they just could get some track position, I really think Chase Elliott had the best car, at least the fastest car in traffic today. It just,
whether it be execution, luck, you name it. They just could not get themselves out of that hole. By the way, let's look at that like button. Let's get well over 100 likes as we go through stage 2 here, and subscribe to. We do this after every race, the good and the bad and the mediocre, for all 3 Cup Series. So, just saying. So we go to lap 53. This is a really big moment. Not maybe for this race overall, as this guy wasn't really looking to be a contender, but lap 53, caution comes out. Ross Chastain in the wall, first off 3, then into 1. And with that, you're looking at just the playoff cut line shrinking back down to kind of like how it was a couple weeks ago. And I mean, with Chastain, like I said, I think he has the speed to get up there, but when you start getting yourself in that range where these other guys can catch you, that's when weird stuff happens. And I know that historically 3 points is the only amount that's been made up with 6 races remaining on the cut line and all of that and yada, 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 and all the different stats and stuff. But the next gen era has, in a lot of ways, kind of exceeded normal statistical measurements of different tracks, races, scenarios, you name it. This is the outlier era in a lot of ways. And I would not, if I'm Chastain, if I'm Trackhouse, all of them, I don't want to be one to test the outlier era. Because while it's not necessarily like they're in the biggest trouble in the world, just weird stuff happens in this next gen era. Since 2022, just weird stuff keeps happening. And now Chastain is going to be the one who's sweating bullets. By the way, he is 17 behind Buescher and 40 behind Ty Gibbs. So he's close to Buescher. And that's somebody he needs to stay close to with the way that the cut line is, with somebody else winning. But it's going to be something worth watching. It could be a complete nothing burger. It could be a really big story moving forward. Anyway, they get it back going. Barry ends up getting the lead from Ty Gibbs before Denny Hamlin gets up there. Denny Hamlin, I think, when it came to the guys who actually showed their muscle, was probably the best one out there. And we saw it by how much time he made up towards the end of that race. But I'm going to be honest, stage 2 was kind of the low point of this race. You did have the strategy, different cars trickling in here and there. The really big kind of thing that happened to this point, though, after all the stuff with Chastain, is Todd Gilliland and Carson Hocevar kind of got back together. And when I say got back together, Hocevar kind of self-cleared himself in front of Gilliland, but nothing really too much came of it. Maybe, again, something to watch moving forward. When something inevitably happens with these two, it'll be put in a compilation by NBC in a couple weeks. But Denny Hamlin wins the stage over Elliott, Keselowski, Byron, and Jones, the top 5. Then Larson, Bowman, Bell, Logano, and Tyler Reddick, the top 10. Again, for the most part, until we get to the final stage, pretty straightforward Pocono race. And for the most part, it was a pretty straightforward race. I'm not going to sugarcoat it or be like NBC and try and make drama out of nothing. With 60 to go, though, we get it back going. The 17 and the 4 up front. Buescher grabs the lead. Field is 3 and 4 wide. 4 wide runs back and forth. And with 45 to go, we have Todd Gilliland crashing into turn 1. And this is where we start changing the course of the race. Larson's the first off pit road. A lot of guys take 2, but the 5, 9, 99, and 54 all were caught speeding. And I believe section 7, that was where we had a lot of trouble today when it came to speeding on pit road. Before the race, they were even nabbing, I think, all but 4 cars in 37 car field. So 33 of the 37, they nabbed for speeding on that kind of warm-up lap when they're setting their tacks and all. And, that it came up to bite them. They knew it was a concern. Every team knew and had a well-advanced warning. But yeah, when you're trying to get that just ever a little bit, you're going to go over the line sometimes, and that's what happened with Larson, Elliott, and Gibbs in particular. Suarez just was sort of like the He's the fourth one, but he was really the third wheel of the contenders that got dinged. Everyone's about 2 to 3 short on fuel. That ultimately ended up not really mattering because of what happened. With 40 to go, we get it restarted. Blaney gets a restart really good over Denny Hamlin, but there's a wreck. And here we go. Here we go. It's the Corey LaJoie talk. It is the part of the race as I'm really bad at getting that ticker up there. This is the interesting part. And this is where I want to start it off with a poll, because this is, I think, going to be the real discourse of the week when it comes to Corey LaJoie. Corey LaJoie on the restart goes down the front stretch. He makes a move low, comes up behind Busch, makes another move, and Kyle Busch goes down to block, which I think is a normal, justified move on a restart when somebody's given a big run behind you. I don't really think the block that Kyle Busch pulled was... I don't think it was egregious in any way. Corey LaJoie then moves back up the track behind him, entering into turn 1, wrecks Busch, sends him into the field, crashes, I don't know, I believe it was 8 cars that were involved. I believe it was 8. And with that, the team radio, I think it wasn't LaJoie himself, but it was someone said he got what he deserved, and basically LaJoie and the team blaming Kyle Busch for it. Now, I'll say Kyle Busch moved down and blocked. Yeah, sure. He wasn't holding his line at that point. But I don't see in any way how anyone could look at that from the head-on shot and from Kyle Busch's onboard and from Corey LaJoie's onboard and say, no, Kyle Busch didn't hold his line. Like, Kyle Busch held his line after the block. He, might have pinched him down, but I don't see how that's necessarily a big deal. He'll have the position on you. It's either Busch is going to wreck himself into one or you're going to wreck yourself into one. Those are the options. The talk of it now is, should Corey LaJoie be suspended for something that in large part, hooking somebody into the field has been said to be a no-no. I'll be honest, and yeah, I see everyone stacking wrecks. I think I put stacking mistakes. People put stacking L's. On the action alone, I could say maybe a fine and maybe some points taken off. But it was the radio afterwards, and the fact that the team, driver, all of them were just like, no, that's his fault, and showed no, I don't know if remorse is the right word, but showed no awareness of what exactly was going on there. I almost think it might. I kind of. It's hard to say it because it's not as egregious as say like the Bubba Wallace one or the Chase Elliott one, but if you're gonna be going off a precedent, you kind of have to. I feel like, and it's also the fact that LaJoie has basically been a fool this year. I mean, to me, and for different reasons, I feel like Corey LaJoie is like the 2024 version of late Cup career Matt DiBenedetto, where it's an underdog story that we all really like. We see them succeed at different points against all odds, and it's fun to watch them and root for them. But then they make some kind of dumb choices and really kind of torpedo stuff their own way and on their own. I get it's, for different reasons on and off the track, but it really feels like a Matt DiBenedetto kind of situation all over again. It gets old. It gets old when it's the same person, whether it's Carson Hocevar doing something stupid, ironically enough, another Spire driver, back in the day when it was Brad Keselowski that would do some dumb stuff every now and then, or Kyle Busch in his younger years. Doesn't matter who it is. It's just when it's the same people doing the same things over and over and over and over again, I have a hard time justifying not having action taken. Do I think NASCAR will suspend Corey LaJoie? No, I don't think so. I think they might penalize him a couple points, or maybe more than likely just fine him.
But, I mean, how many times now this year has Corey LaJoie caused a wreck in some way? And this isn't even talking about the fact that whenever Corey LaJoie gets up towards the front of the field, the dude doesn't know what to do. Like, he drives erratic. He drives skittish. And this is the guy that Rodney Childers is going on board of. I'll tell you what, if Rodney Childers makes Corey LaJoie even a top 20 driver week in and week out again, wow. I mean, just absolute applause I will give Rodney Childers for that, because that would be really, really damn impressive. I don't see it at this point, because Josh Berry's a pretty solid and good driver, and that pairing is really good, but it took half a year to do that. This race, if nothing else, proves that next year is the last shot for him. The Spire should not stick with him if even Rodney Childers can't make him a better level driver than he is this year. But this year has been just, I would even say, even for his standards, abnormally bad. I mean, sitting around 30th in points the entire year, way off where they were the last couple of years, getting outrun by a rookie, 2 rookies the last couple of weeks, because poor Zane Smith getting caught up in the next wreck we'll talk about here, which we don't have to talk as in depth about. It's hard and it's more and more difficult to justify that, and I have no doubt next year Michael McDowell will be ahead of him, unless the 71 team is just completely in disarray more than it is this year. But even then, again, the 71 team ran up pretty damn well. Looking in the chat here, it's just, I think it's a lot of people saying LaJoyism. Here it is what Kobe Lee said. LaJoyism. It's getting there. It's kind of like a Brian Vickers a little bit. Not too bad, as bad. Vickers in his time was a piece of work. I like this one. Why is the 7 getting Rodney Childers again? The issue isn't atop the pit box. Try tightening the nut behind the wheel first. That's a good question. I mean, I believe the crew chief is the crew chief moving on, or are they just moving stuff around? Get the crying towel. I might actually have a towel here. Nope, I don't have my Gatorade towel, or I might have had a little fun with it. I'm not gonna read that one from Corvette Racing, but that's pretty damn funny. I'll tell you what, you guys, when there's like a target, you guys are really good at making up some pretty fun names. But I mean, I'm looking at the poll right now as well, and 61% of you say yes, suspend Corey LaJoie. 60 now. 40% say do not, or no, he shouldn't be. Again, I think based on precedent and based on the way that the radio communication was, yes. Just because also with all of it put together, it's just, I think you need a bit of I don't know if it's a reality check or just a step back for a minute and just like get your head on straight, man. Like it cannot be the same damn thing every single week, and that seems to be what it's turning into with Corey LaJoie. And I don't like saying this because I have been able to talk to, interview, and sometimes even like at Road America, I got to hang out with them for a few. Like, he's the one who helped me carbon date my Winston Cup hat to figure out it was from 1981 or 2, one or the other. So, like, I don't have joy saying this. I want him to be really good. I think he's a great personality. I've said this about a couple drivers. It's the on-track stuff that needs to get fixed quick. I don't think he's the worst driver in NASCAR. I see a couple people in there saying that. Stacking enemies, I like that one. That's a good one, Gan Mike. We still have Cody Ware out there, but it's hard to justify it anymore. Let's see, JFB in the chat here. What the F is this show after the race? What the F is this? We do this every week, unless you're talking about the subject matter, in which ask Corey LaJoie. We do this every week, so subscribe if you're new. Well, if you're commenting, you are subscribed, I believe. Unless I turn that off. I don't know. We're great. Everything's great. But Kyle Busch gets taken out in this. And Kyle Busch is the next one I want to talk about here.
I do not blame Kyle Busch at all for just kind of pursing his lips and not saying anything dumb. I kind of miss the old Kyle Busch, though. I miss the Kyle Busch that would probably wait for him or go down pit road and talk to somebody on the box or just do something really fun. This Kyle Busch is sad. It's just sad because you can tell this dude is broken at RCR. Like, RCR has broken this man. There's like, I agree with Braden in the chat here. Kyle Busch is going to go winless this year. I mean, I don't see. Kyle Busch was running like what, 25th, I think, at this point. Oh, the one on USA? Oh, I don't know. I turned it off. Unless it's already off. I don't know. But Kyle Busch was running probably 25th at the time that he got wrecked. Well, I'll be gracious and say 20th. But that was the best he was running all day. At one point today, I shit you not, Cody Ware passed Kyle Busch on speed early in this race. Kyle Busch by lap 10 was like 25 to 30 seconds behind the leader. That is a half a lap down. And I get that there was a little contact at one point. He's running 15th, top 16. All right. How much of that, though, was like strategy? You were wrong. He was running 15th. Okay, so 15th. Was he a top 15 car today? Like, what his speed today was so far off. And it wasn't just like, oh, it's Kyle Busch is a bad driver. I don't think so in any way. Do I think he's slowing down later in his career? Sure. Yeah, I think he is. There you go, strategy. Do I think he's slowing down later in his career? Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that's justifiable. A driver should, as they get later in their career, start slowing down. It happens at a different time for every driver. Do I think he's this bad? To be running at times slower than Cody Ware, running similar pace to JJ Yaley? No, he's not. Austin Dillon was back there as well. I do not think that Kyle Busch and Austin Dillon in any time are comparable drivers. Kyle Busch at his worst is always going to be better than Austin Dillon. And that's not even a slight at Austin Dillon. Kyle Busch is just a really damn good driver. That team is so far off base right now. I don't know if they put a bid in for him, but man, RCR should have put a huge bid in for Rodney Childers. I mean, Rodney Childers is the type of crew chief, and I know it's, it seems like I'm just sort of, kissing his ass the whole time with this, but we've seen it with Kevin Harvick compared to the rest of Stewart Haas Racing. We now have seen it with the highlights, at least, of Josh Berry's rookie year, that he can get what is trash equipment to rise above that. And I feel like it was a huge missed opportunity if they did not throw the bag at him to try at least and do something to reinvigorate the 8 team. Switch some stuff around, do something. But that team, I mean, getting rid of Andy Petrie, and I know he said he retired, but like he either stepped down or they got rid of him. That team's in disarray as well. But at this point, I'd say focus on 2025, but I don't trust RCR as a team. Like, I think RCR, I think a Kyle Busch from 5 to 10 years ago could elevate RCR the way a Kevin Harvick or a Tyler Reddick did. I don't think this Kyle Busch can. And it's kind of sad. It's not kind of sad. It's sad to see. I mean, Kyle Busch should not be spending the late years of his career in middling equipment, running 25th, and then crashing every other week. I think he deserves more. Of course, the next restart, by the way, 34 to go, we get another crash with Nemechek and Zane Smith. I felt so bad for Zane Smith on this one, just because that 71 car was actually running legitimately in the top 10, had strategy on their side at different points of the race, trying to make a run at the top 10 finish in this race. That team is starting to come together a little bit. And I think that they're going to have a couple more runs like this. I think it was like what, the first, was it, how many, like 15 or 14 races, they had 2 top 20s. And then in like the last 5 or 6, they've had 4 top 20s or something like that. Can't remember the exact stat. And like Josh was saying here, he qualified 8th. I mean, just has really upped the performance and run as well as I expected him to. If you don't remember, I was one of the people who said instead of McDowell, they should have kept Zane Smith at front row. And if he's available and they want to buy out his contract or do whatever, I still think it would be a long-term good move to have Zane Smith in that car, have Zane Smith as one of your drivers. He's finally starting to show it a little bit more. Again, remember, as much as this team's improved, it is still Spire. It is going to take a while for them to be top 10 week in and week out. But, I mean, he qualified top 10, ran top 10 to 15 for much of the day. I really, really want to see what he can do in a bit better equipment. Whether that's with Trackhouse, whether that's front row buying out the contract, whatever that might be. But I felt really bad for him because he actually was putting together what so far in his Cup side of the career has been a career day. It was a career day at that point. So we get back going, 29 to go. It's a 12 and the 48 now up front. Blaney would clear Bowman and Gibbs a blown engine. And I want to say, NBC had some issues today. You know, like, again, a pet peeve of mine is full replays over green flag racing. Can't stand that. They did that a bit today, stuff like that. As the sirens roll by, would not be a stream on my channel if that did not happen. Somebody's always dying. But I will give them credit. Unlike Fox, NBC knows what to zoom in on. And when Ty Gibbs started to blow his engine, he's going down the backstretch towards a tunnel turn, they zoomed in on the exhaust pipes, and you saw like this chocolate milk coming out of it. Clearly fluid on the racetrack. NASCAR took like a lap to throw it. They were very what's the word, delayed, I guess, when it came to the cautions this weekend. There were a couple of them at different points that it's like, why did we wait that long? But a tough break for Gibbs. He's the lucky one, I gotta say. Because he ended up finishing still in the 27th position, so 9 points higher than Ross Chastain. And while 9 points isn't going to make too big a difference in the here and now, that's a difference between being 67 up and being 58 up. And again, if there's a new winner below Bubba Wallace, then you're looking at, you know, like say Chase Briscoe wins at Indianapolis. You know, that's a lot of reason to want to win that race. More sirens rolling through. Let's just say Kyle Busch falls into a win here, or somebody like that. Then you're really looking at a much closer playoff picture. At the moment, he is 23 above Chris Buescher, 40 above Ross Chastain. Say he blows that engine earlier on, and you lose those 9 points, and say Chastain wrecks out beforehand. That could be a 10-point swing. Which is 30 points doesn't seem like too big a deal when it comes to the distance to Ross, but that could be a big deal come a big one in Daytona or something like that. So, if you're looking, Ty Gibbs fans, because I know there are a good bit out there, for a silver lining is this could have been so much worse for him if there wasn't 2 crashes beforehand, engine issues, you name it. That could be the difference when push come to shove, or it couldn't. It could just be a speed bump on the way. But I do think that first win is coming by the end of the year. I would not be surprised. And before anyone wants to say, bust or any of that, Ty Gibbs, I should say, very much is like an early era Kyle Busch in some ways. But being like, Ty Gibbs can't win. It's been, this amount of time and this and that. Like, let's also remember that it took until 2018 for Chase Elliott to get his first win. And Chase Elliott is one of the best drivers out there. So Ty Gibbs, that first win, it's coming. And if it comes in the playoffs too, especially if he, round of 12, round of 8 kind of thing, it's going to be big. And God, I hope it's at Martinsville, moving somebody popular out of the way. I don't care which driver it is, just because I want to see a replay of the way that freak out in 2022, I believe was. I'm sorry, I had a lot of fun watching that on social media, and I would love to see something like that. Let's see. So from there, after we get that done, we get our final restart of the day with 23 to go. Another good restart for Blaney. The 48 and 11 were battling behind him. And while Bowman did run back up to him, it was just too little too late, especially when Blaney started adjusting where he'd drive and the different lines he'd take to put the dirty air on the 48 car. It was over at that point. Hamlin did get by him with 8 to go. At that point, they were about 2.4 seconds back. And Hamlin was able to make up about a second, maybe a little more, depending on how far back he was when the pass was made. But he would have probably needed another 8 to probably 12 laps to make a pass on Blaney and catch him. It was just too little, too late. And Ryan Blaney wins the race. Just flat out at the same place that he won his first ever NASCAR Cup Series race in 2017, I want to say it was. Coincidentally enough, beating a Joe Gibbs driver. At that time, I believe it was Kyle Busch on top of, I think Kevin Harvick was up there. It's been a while. And as a junior fan, I tried blocking out a bit of that year. But that also means that with the win, Ryan Blaney is the sole driver in the NASCAR Cup Series to ever have 12 wins as of right now. The next ones up that he could tie for 13 are William Byron, Dick Rathman, and Tim Richmond. He has 12 wins, and get this, because he's 62nd on the all-time wins list as of now. There are no drivers in NASCAR Cup Series history as of this moment that have 11 career wins. The only ones behind him, the closest behind him, are Donnie Allison, Clint Boyer, and Sterling Marlin with 10. So interesting little nuggets there. But yeah, it was a Pocono race. I mean, there's no other way to put it. The last couple of years, I think, were above and beyond. This year was one of those kind of 5 or 6 out of 10 kind of deals. There was still the strategy, but again, cautions fell at the wrong time to really make the strategy fun. But overall, there have been much worse Pocono races. I was way better than the truck race, I'll tell you that. I think Xfinity won the weekend. And let's have a poll while we run this thing out. And by the way, quick reminder that this week we will be on Eric Estep's channel for NWP. We got special guest David Land coming on at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Should be a lot of fun heading into the Brickyard right before we go into our Olympic break. Yay. God, I hate the Olympics. But after that, it's NASCAR till the finale, so that's fun. And there you go. Race of the weekend poll is up. And then we will be live after all the races. IRP, Xfinity, Brickyard 400. We'll be live after all of them. I'm more than likely not going to be at Indianapolis unless I do a last second kind of thing. But just kind of figured I would. Let's see. Oh, God. I'll read that super chat when we get to that point, but these are funny, man. These are funny, and your guys' comments are pretty funny. Let's see. Wow. I'm genuinely surprised that it's that close. But let's get to the super chats to end this baby off. I'll keep an eye on by the way, on the chat. And I feel like there's one more thing I'm forgetting. I'm always forgetting something. It's just, I'll remember it as soon as I get off the air and go, damn, I should remember that. Super Noob for the 2. Byron top 5. It's been a while. Yeah, but you know what? Byron and that 24 team have always kind of lagged a bit in the summer. They kind of pull a reverse Tony Stewart, where like Tony Stewart kind of be all right to kind of good at the start of the year, and then just like go on a tear every summer. Byron's kind of the opposite, where it's like they'll come out the gate strong and swinging, and then they'll kind of have that kind of 10, 12 weeks in the summer where it's just kind of like meh, they get a couple top 10s here, there, top 5, whatever, and then they turn it on at the end of the season. Last year was an anomaly that Byron was, for the most part, pretty good just all the way through, based at least on my memory. I could be wrong about that, and you guys have pointed out I've been wrong about a lot. But I do think that they will be in playoff form. I think a lot of the stuff they do there in the regular season at this point is just testing. Michael Kelly Gilliam, thank you for the, let's see, I'll reset on me, the 12 gifted memberships. I appreciate it. Reverend Rasheem Hall Stewart, thank you for the 250. Cup Championship 4, Bell, Hamlin, Larson, and Byron. I do think that that's probably, again, kind of like what you're saying before, the favorites, for, like we said with Xfinity yesterday. Would not be surprised if a Ford makes it in. And if a Ford makes it in, they're the favorite. A Blaney, if Logano turns it on late in the year, it's an even number year. You can't count them out. But I do think it's probably, Reddick, I think, is somebody who could be up there. I think there could be a lot of different guys that could go up there. I think the round of 8 this year is going to be really, really interesting. Unfortunately, we take 2 rounds that really don't matter to get there. Demetrius, thank you for the 5. Great content as always, Jarrett. Well, thank you. And thank you for spelling my name right, by the way. 1 R and 1 T. Parents didn't want to waste ink on the birth certificate. But I appreciate that. I actually enjoyed that race. As a Ford fan, Blaney winning made it better. Well, I'm happy for it. Again, I didn't think it was awful. I thought it was. There's definitely been way worse Pocono races, and all in all, this track has been pretty fun in the next gen era. And then Twin Spinner for the 2. Chastain and Busch fans committing toaster bath. That's wrong, man, but that's funny. Bobby, thank you for the 3-month member chat. As a Busch fan, I hate life. Now you know how a Dale Jr. fan felt in like 2009 and 10. Sucks. It really sucks. Marky Mark for the $12 for the number 12 for his 12th. And it has 12 likes. How about that? That's cool. Oh, that's awesome, man. James, thank you for the 2. Just saying, let's go. So I think James liked this race. SW for the 5. I don't know what Spire sees in Corey after that dumb stunt he did on Busch. It's even so bad hearing the radio conversation during that. Yikes. Hopefully this is like next year's a prove it year. I like that, Spencer, and you know it works. Tagging you for no reason because I can. Albert, thank you for the 5. Will help pay for therapy for Kyle Busch fans. Yeah, I know his interview was like, nah. So instead of like KFB, should it be like KNB? Like just Kyle, nah, Busch. Just saying. Marky Mark for a 2 here. F to pay respects to Kyle Busch. F's in the chat for Kyle. Let's see. Carl Singleton for the 5. I feel bad for Kyle Busch that he might not get the 20-year streak. Has his luck bank stopped giving him loans? So far this year it has. And I believe he'd be the only driver to do 20 in a row, right? Or tied for it. I believe it's like either he's tying or going for, like he would be tying or getting a record. You can correct me on that, but I believe it's getting the record. I don't see it. Not in the next, what is it, 15 races? Maybe he could get he could probably get a race here or there if he's not crashed and they bring a car that's not, just a brick with wheels. So he is tied for it. So he's going for the record. I don't see him getting it. I think he's going to be tied. But let's say, but it's not 20 seasons either way. He's not extending it is my point. The 2 from Infield Ike, AO form the Iron Horse in Daytonas. Rocks reviews and reactions for the 2. Glad Truex had a solid run. Could be better, but good. Well, they painted his name on the front stretch. He had to do good, right? One of his like million home tracks. Like dislike for the 2. What has LaJoie ever done to get a cup ride? I mean, he did overperform a couple of stinker rides. So I'm not going to say he's a bad driver. He's just not showing his best by any means, and he's not a good driver right now. Carl Singleton for the 5. Kyle Busch is still the best driver in NASCAR history, born between 1981 and 1996. The best millennial driver, okay. Regardless, if he gets the 20-year streak. Yeah, I would agree. I think he's the best millennial NASCAR driver. Who would be the other ones? Like, I would say the argument is between Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson for Gen Xers. Dale Earnhardt I would give for the baby boomers. And then the greatest or silent generation would be Richard Petty, I believe. I don't know how it all goes with that. Is Larson a millennial? Oh, good point. I don't know. I don't even know where he lines it. He probably is, because I'm 97 and I'm like the oldest of the Gen Z side, so he would be a millennial. So like he could probably contend down the line. It's an interesting conversation though. Like you don't really look at generations like that in sports, just because you really look at like decades, or like in NASCAR the generations of cars or point systems, stuff like that. You don't actually look at generations. But yeah, so you're not 1997. Yeah. Yep. So 81 to 96 is millennial, 97 to 2012 is Gen Z. Who'd y'all give to Gen Z as the best driver? That's an interesting one. Spam your favorite. Spam who you think the best Gen Z driver is in the chat, because we do have a couple of them now. Austin for the 5. I missed the race today. Thanks for giving a review that made me feel like I watched it. Thanks for some normalcy after yesterday's tragedy. Pray for America. Yeah, I always want to make it that push comes to shove, whatever's going on in the world, you can come here and not have to worry about it. Because, yeah, that's about all I'll say on it. But let's see. Gibbs. Wait a minute. William Byron's Gen Z. He was born like 3 weeks after me, I think, or before me. He was born the same year as me, if I'm not mistaken. I need to double check on that. I believe he was born in 97. Yeah, he was born. Yeah, he was born about actually almost 4 weeks of the day after me. So, yeah. So it would be, I would say Byron, because Chase Elliott counts as a millennial. I see people saying Chase, that's why I brought him up. I'd say it's Byron. James here for the 2 with a short and simple. Kyle Busch is washed. He ain't doing a good job of convincing people that he ain't, I guess. That's the right way. Fred Dog 81 for the 10. I'll repeat what I said on Wednesday. 280 plus starts in the big 3, 4 measly top 5s over a decade. Other drivers lost their rides with more top 5s in one season, and he brings in no sponsor. LaJoie is a bum racer. Again, he's another one. Has not done a good job of proving why he's there. And next year he has to perform, or Spire should have no choice but to get rid of him. I know he's helped that team ascend a little bit. I know he's not had the greatest equipment in his career, all that. But this team is quickly moving past him. Carson Hocevar is proving that every week. Zane Smith is starting to prove that more. Michael McDowell is a very capable and solid driver, and probably will be doing that next year, I would say. So next year, I think, is make or break for his career. Not just Cup, just in general. Great off-track personality, but that only gets you so far in this sport. Groovy Goose for the 5. Put this to the Iceberg Siren / light for cautions on the post-race stream. Fun. I'll write that down. I'll write that down right now. Maybe I'll do that every time that they go by. I'll do something like that if I remember. All right, I wrote it down. Daniel, thank you for the 5. Post-race, LaJoie said Kyle Busch blocked twice. Apparently, the whole world is blind. He's a crumb. Suspend that fool. Yeah, I don't see that. I saw him block once. The footage showed he did not block again. He went in a straight line. So I don't see what LaJoie's talking about at that point. I really don't. Yeah, I don't see that personally. LaJoie can try and justify what went on there as much as he wants. Does not do it for me. Austin left 2 more here for the 10. It says, as much as I don't like Fox, I will never forgive NBC for 2 things. 1, showing more IndyCar races on NBC than NASCAR. Well, that's a NASCAR thing. NASCAR could have taken a bit less money and gotten more races on NBC. I'm not wanting to be an NBC defender, but that's also on NASCAR for going for the money rather than the fan experience and making it more accessible. That's also on NBC, though, like with when they had NBC Sports Network and USA Now, for trying to get more eyes on their cable channels. But that's in large part on NASCAR. And 2, making us take 2 weeks to watch sports that nobody cares about every 4 years. I know the Olympics were big, but the ratings, at least last time around, proved that people are caring less and less about them. That's on NBC. That's fully on NBC. I mean, they pretty much control anything on their side of the schedule, dates, times, all that is all NBC's decision. So yeah, that's on NBC for sure. And then Austin here for another 2. Jarrett, we're both 97 babies. What month are you? I was November the 1st. I believe that was a Saturday. Great day. Remember it like it was yesterday. NRF8 for the 34-month member chat. Damn. Hope the 7 gets a suspension. 77 carrying Spire. This year for sure. Yeah, Carson Osvar's carrying that team right now. And it's not even close. Then Fred Dog 81 for the 2 here. Better Gen Alpha driver, Brexton or Keelan. I have never seen either of them race. The most I've ever watched of them live is Keelan Harvick did an NR Night in America. When John was doing I believe it was like a heat race for like 2 heat races or duels before a Talladega race. That's the most I've seen of any of them live. I usually am busy watching the top 3 series and then anything going on at the fairgrounds if I have the chance to. But other than that, so I really can't judge them. But more than likely they'll be coming up through the ranks in the coming years. We're on the poll here. 50% of you say the Xfinity race was the race of the weekend. 46% say Cup and 4% Truck, unless it changes. Because, again, every time I end the poll and it puts it in the chat, YouTube changes. Yep, there it changed. It's 4% Trucks, not 3. Yeah. So this week, NWP on Eric Estep's channel, Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. David Land will be coming on. Should be a lot of fun. And no Napa Racing fan. We are not taking an Olympic break. We might have shorter shows just because there might not be as much news going on, or we might just add a fun segment here or there or something like that. Maybe Wednesday night, give us some, what's it called? Ideas in the comment section for stuff we could do this Wednesday night after. And also remember August 20th on IDK Players YouTube channel, we're doing the NWP 400 Gen 4s going about 210 miles an hour in the daytime or nighttime, daytime, I don't know. They're on 210, 208. Should be a lot of fun as well. So a lot of stuff coming up in the next month or so. Just because there's an Olympic break does not mean that we take a break. I cannot wait to get it all in. Let's do it. But yeah, be sure to watch this Wednesday night. Cannot wait to see you there. We're going to end this off here. I appreciate everybody coming on in. Believe it or not, I could talk an hour in one way or another about a Pocono race that really wasn't as eventful as the last couple were. Thank you so much for coming on in. I appreciate it a ton. And enjoy the rest of your night. Later, y'all.